Hi, everyone. Welcome to Third Party Thursday. We're here to talk about normalizing third party reproduction, and I am so excited for Eloise Drane to join me today. I think she is an amazing person, and the fact that she has done so much for surrogacy and third party reproduction and will be able to share that with us is fabulous. So let me just see if I could get her on, and as soon as she's here, we're going to get started. Please, I hope that you'll have some questions and be able to participate. She is just a wealth of information. And Eloise, I'm trying to figure out how to get you to join here. Let me just see. This is not my forte, but she'll be here soon, and we'll be good to go. So she's here, okay. We're going to be talking about surrogacy, donor conception, how she started her agency, and even the efforts that we've made so far with the petition. And we're starting a letter writing campaign. So as soon as she gets on here, we'll get started. And I'm so happy for the people who have joined today. I think she is here now. Okay, you request. Nope, that's not you. I think I just need you to add a request to join, and then we'll be good to go. Here we go. Okay, excellent. Here we go. I think you should be on in a minute. Did you get that? It says that you've joined, so now I have to see you. There you are.
Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry. This is never like my forte. I have to be honest with you.
Uh, Believe me, it is not mine either. So, just-
Oh my goodness.
so it is what it is.
It is what it is. You know what? I am like so thrilled and so honored that you are here today. I think you're remarkable. I truly do. So,
Thank
Elise,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much. Um, there's so much to talk about. And I was so excited to have met you like 6 weeks ago or so. I don't remember when.
Hmm.
And find out everything you do and share with you about this normalizing third party reproduction effort that we're doing. And I'm not even sure where to get started, but maybe if you even want to share a little bit about how you started your agency and your background, because you're truly remarkable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you giving me the time to share on your platform. So I really, the catalyst for me to start this agency was, unbeknownst to me at the time, was when I became a kidney donor for my cousin.
Oh my goodness.
And just that experience, going through that, seeing what it truly meant to be selfless for somebody else, um, was kind of that trajectory that I'm like, oh, I really enjoy that. I want to try to that again. And then became an egg donor. And that was actually my first experience. Was a horrible experience, but it still was this door opening that I didn't really know that that's what was going to happen when I took those steps. So
Isn't it amazing how something that's a horrible experience could actually, allow you to continue to do what you think is important and to be true to yourself?
hmm hmm well, and then if you think about it too, sometimes we do things and we don't really know that that step that I took is literally going to change the trajectory of my life.
You're giving me the
And
chills.
that's what happened
Absolutely.
for me. I mean, I knew it was obviously going to change because, hello, I'm going to only have one kidney, but I didn't realize the impact it was going to have in my entire being.
Right. Right. And what's remarkable, what I find remarkable about you is that not only did you have that feeling, but then you took the action. And so lots of times people will have a feeling that they want to make a change, but then it's that taking that action that is the hard part that, we get stuck with and we're not sure how to make that
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. Because I think that we pretty much are kind of, and I think it also stems from society of, we have to fear everything. And I say this a lot, I do a lot of things in fear. I move a lot in fear, not because I'm a fearless person, but my faith is everything for me. And so I move in that, okay, regardless that I'm fearful, but I have faith in a higher being. And I'm just going to believe that my higher being is going to take care of whatever steps or missteps that I might take.
Yeah, that's a fabulous way, I think, for people who are religious and do believe in a higher power to to move forward. I think it's a great way. I find fear can be a motivator,
Mm-hmm.
not just a stifler. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know anybody who's taken a large step in life, especially when it comes to fertility, right? Who
Sure.
hasn't had some fear or has some concern.
Absolutely.
It's just
Absolutely.
it's how you connect with that fear and what you do with that.
Yeah. And knowing that it's okay to be fearful,
Yes.
but that it you can't allow it though to hold you back. You can't allow it to kind of be the only thing that you think about and you consider, because then you're going to just be stuck and you're not going to move forward. And when you start talking about, fertility treatments and all of the things that you have to go through, and then even if you then have to, entertain third party, well, there's a whole bunch of fear in all of that. And you're also, not only are you dealing with your own internal fears, then you're also probably sometimes having to deal with other people's fears as
Oh my
well,
goodness,
projecting
yes.
on you.
Hmm. And that's really where this initiative came about. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was speaking to a young woman in her 20s who may have to use third party reproduction. And she
Mm,
was talking about all the fears that she had. And my response was, if you didn't have them, I would be concerned.
right.
Because it's important to be able to address them and embrace them so that you can move past them. It really
Yep.
is. And you
Well,
have
and
been
if
on
you
both
think about
sides.
it's our DNA makeup,
Hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, we're born with an innate ability to have all of these emotions. And when, we need to be aware, we need to be cautious, we'll get a feeling. When we need to have fear, we get a feeling. When we need to, when we're joyful, we get a feeling. And but that's the whole thing, is recognizing, okay, this is a feeling, but I can still move on with that feeling if I want to get to my end goal, regardless of what my end goal is.
Yeah.
Um, so that, I think, is one of one of the biggest obstacles, I think, when we're talking about fertility and the unknown of fertility. Even if you go in and okay, the doctor has given me this schedule, this is what I need to do, this is how, but there's still an unknown. You don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if you're going to be able to create those embryos. You don't know if you're going to have to work with a third party and how that's going to be. You don't know how your family is going to react to, whatever. You don't know long term how your child is going to react to knowing, hopefully, what their story is. And so from when you begin, you need to be comfortable within yourself. And that is, over the years of me just living, I am comfortable with me. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable with what happens in my life. And I'm also comfortable with the decisions I make. Are they all correct? Absolutely not. Will, other people disagree with me or whatever? Of course they will. But that's still not going to deter me from doing what I feel I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I love that. And it rings so true. So when you because you've not only been a donor, but now you have an agency where you help people to conceive, which is family exceptions, and you're working with people on every end. You've experienced it firsthand. You've gone through the fears, and we do know that when people go through third party reproduction, you're right, there's so many concerns. You don't know if it's going to work. So emotionally, physically, financially, it's impacting everything. And
Mm-hmm.
and just to recap what you said, it's true. We don't know at the end how the child's going to feel, how we're going to tell our story, how we're going to let our community know our story. And it's so many layers to this.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, so after I did my first donation, and as I mentioned, wasn't the greatest experience,
Yeah.
but went on and did another 5 rounds of being an egg donor, twice for the same family, and then went on to be a
Oh
gestational carrier, three times.
my God, God bless you.
Um,
Really.
Thank you. And just again, no, being comfortable with the decisions that I was making for myself, and then also being comfortable enough that those decisions that I made will impact not just me, it will impact the families that I donated for or carried for. It will impact the children that I helped bring into this world. And it will impact my own family and my own children.
Yes.
And why I think what you're doing is so important because, I think about my egg donor babies, for instance, and I still actually have relationships with some of the intended parents, and they are, um, and shoot, when I started my first egg
Something
donation.
happened with your sound, Eloise?
So can you hear me? Is
Yeah, now,
that,
yeah, now,
sorry,
yeah.
unfortunately, there was a call coming through, and of course, you
Oh,
would
of course.
try not to do it while there's, a call, but hey,
Right.
whatever, it is what it is.
Gotta just go with the
So
flow here.
I had actually spoke to one of my egg donor babies. I believe it was November of last year, or maybe October of last year. Um, and she is now 16, and her parents just shared with her not too long ago about her
Conception.
being a product of a donor.
Hmm.
And she was obviously shocked because they had not shared it with her, but they and I still had a relationship. And so the intended mother reached out to me and said, we've told so and so, of the situation, and she has questions. Would you be willing to speak to her? And I'm like, of course, absolutely. And, when I got on the phone with her, her first thing was, I always knew there was something different about me with
Wow.
my family. I just didn't know what. I just didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know, I just knew that, there's just something about me that's so completely different than so many others of my family, especially on my mom's side. And she said, and one thing is, I have this shoe fetish. Well, hello, that's me all day long. And then, when her and I, as we began conversing and just telling her, first of all, yes, that is a thing because I have this shoe fetish as well. And it's, and funny enough, it's me and my son that have this shoe fetish. And one thing about it is with my kids, I've always been open and upfront with them about me being a donor, obviously about me being a gestational carrier, and hello, the kind of work that I do now. But even before I started my agency, it was never something that I hid from my kids.
Wait, can I ask you a question? I just want to back up for a minute because so
Sure.
many people have concerns about their children finding out that they were conceived through a donor, and even the intention of a surrogate. There's still a lot of questions that the surrogate there could change their mind or there could be decisions there, and it's important for people to understand that when people go through go through donating their egg or their sperm or an embryo, but we'll talk about eggs specifically because that's what you've done, that they're doing it with intention of a
Hmm.
donation. They're not doing it intention of having that child.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that could be a
And for a
difficult
lot of
concept for
donors,
many.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so that's a difficult concept for many to really fully embrace.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's a difficult concept for both sides,
Yeah.
honestly. Um, on the donor side, I think a lot of people, they think about, okay, I'm going to donate my eggs. I don't want to have children. And, I don't think I am ever going to want to have children. And so I'll just donate my eggs for a family in need and I'll be done. But that's not true. You're not done. I interviewed on my podcast a Erin Jackson, who was founded We Are Donor Conceived.
Uh-huh.
And she made some very valid points about, even for people who are willing to become donors, need to understand that what you're doing is helping to bring another human being into this world.
Yes.
That next human being right now is a baby, is a child. It's wanted by his or her parents. But one day that human being or that child is going to become an adult, and they're going to want to know their origin, just like you want to know your origin and I want to know my origin. They're going to want to as well. And going into it thinking like, oh, I just gave my eggs and it's no big deal and I'm done. Well, that's not true anymore, because quite frankly, there's no such thing any longer as anonymity.
No, there's not. Even when you go to, and I want to highlight this a little bit, some of the facilities do anonymous egg donation. And I've had people that I work with who go to it and they are a bit conflicted. But ultimately, with all the DNA tests, there's not going to be this anonymity. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. Even if they signed up for that type of a donation, they
That's
will
right.
be able to identify.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, and it's important. I always say, and I probably said this to you also when we were chatting last time, there's 3 journeys here, at least 2. There's the intended parent that's carrying, if there's an intended parent that's not carrying, and then there is the child. And we have
Yes.
to be very cognizant of all 3.
Yes. Yes. Because again, going back to what I was saying earlier, that child is going to become an adult.
Yes.
He or she deserves to know their origin.
Absolutely.
And for parents that are utilizing donor eggs or even a gestational carrier, see, the problem, I think, is number one, society makes it seem that all of this is so, that it's such a thing that we need to keep secret and that we don't need to share, and that we should keep this as a hidden thing. Well, why?
Right. So I go, lots of times I like to say to people, what happens is when you're trying to conceive, you go from telling people about things through fertility to becoming very private. And that privacy, you almost feel is like a secret. And then once you feel like it's a secret, you start to feel a lot of negativity. And you start to get very concerned, right, about how people are going to respond to you and how they're going to react to you. And I've reached out to some of the clergy, whether it be from the Jewish religion or the Catholic religion. I haven't gotten to too many other religions just yet. And both of them had similar themes, which is a child is always accepted by most communities, not by every single community, but by most communities. It's just a matter of how they're accepted. And it starts with the parent being comfortable. That's really what I believe. And so through these conversations I've had with people, that's where this initiative came from. It came from really saying, okay, how do we help people to feel comfortable in their own skin, whether it is the parent or the child born through third-party reproduction or somebody adopted? Like, how do we begin to open up this conversation? And, my thought was the medical intake, because the medical intake is a place where it's relatively safe. It's a medical setting. You would hope that the sensitivity is there, and you would hope that it's on a medical form, forcing the conversation with the whoever the healthcare provider is, because if it's on the form, they're going to have to ask the question until they become more familiar with asking the question. And Sally sitting next to you or Joe sitting next to you has no idea about any of this, will recognize it as it's another way to conceive a child. I'm so sorry. It's another way to conceive a child. And so that, I think, is important, because people need to know that there's all different ways of conceiving children. And that was really, I'm sorry about that. That is really the purpose behind it.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we want people to begin to feel comfortable. And I've also talked to people who are adopted who are uncertain of their origins and who don't know what to put down when they see a form other. And why should they put down other? Like, why should that be happening?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of the conversation that you had with this woman who is probably fabulous to talk to or talk with revolves around that, right? Because we have to start this at the beginning.
Yes, we have to start at the beginning. And we, as the parents and even the individuals that's in this industry helping these parents along, need to begin having the dialogue with them that they should not be ashamed of their story.
Right.
They shouldn't be ashamed of their child's origin. They shouldn't be ashamed that they had to use donor eggs. They wanted that child so badly that they were willing to do whatever they needed to do to have that child.
And it's a
And
medical diagnosis. It's not as if it was a choice. It
yes,
was because there is a medical condition going on there.
that's right. Um, but once we start as a society and even as the parents and being okay with our story, your child is only going to feed off of you.
Yes.
If you're okay with their origin story, if you're okay with how they came about and what you had to do, and okay from the time they were babies and sharing, their story with them, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so fabulous about having somebody like you be a donor and be a surrogate and now have this agency because you can help them with that. One of the most important things I think people can do when they're going down these journeys of using a donor or even adopting or a surrogate or however they're conceiving that is not the way that we would necessarily go into wanting to have a baby thinking we were going to conceive. One of the most important things I think is becoming comfortable with your story and starting to write your own story.
Mm-hmm.
And starting to tell your story to yourself, to your belly, to whatever part of you needs to hear that, so that
Yep.
when that child is born, you can then tell that story to that child.
Right. Or you can begin telling your child their stories so that once they get older, they can just continue on with their story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And I think it's an evolving story.
Yes.
So what we say while we're expecting might be different than once the child is born. And as the child gets older and starts to ask questions, it's a perfect opportunity. So you had the opportunity to talk to children
Mm-hmm.
who, you either were the egg donor for or the surrogate for. That
Mm-hmm.
has to be amazing
It is.
and
It
scary.
truly is amazing.
Scary, I think.
And one of my egg donor babies
Mm-hmm.
definitely looks a lot like me.
Uh-huh.
Um, and and people ask me all the time, even my husband has asked me, because obviously we talk about it and he's seen pictures and, like when I've seen her and he's like, okay, so how do you feel? And I'm just like, I mean, my friend's baby. That's how I feel. Like there's no my children, the children that I, had from myself and raised, those are my children. Because I gave my DNA to someone, that's their child. They're raising them. Now, yes, we have similar DNA makeup, and they might have similar traits as I, but again, they're not my child. Now, am I going to hide it or act like they don't exist or anything? No, of course not. They are another human being. Just like I stood up and raised my hands and said, hey, I'm willing to do this for you, I should also be willing to step up and raise my hand and say, hey, if you have any questions, of course I'll be able to and willing to answer your questions. Because again, I didn't go in with the intention that I was going to hide it from my family or hide it from my children or hide it in general from people that I did this. Why? Why should I be embarrassed for helping another family? What I did was an amazing, beautiful, selfless gift. And for anybody that's considering being a donor or being a gestational carrier, that's what they are. They are selfless women who are providing an amazing gift for people. And anybody who tries to shame them, they need to be ashamed of themselves, not the donor or the GC who's willing to step up and be selfless for somebody else. And for, people that do have issues with that, those are the ones that I usually tell, just shut up and go sit down somewhere, please.
Good for
Yeah.
you. I mean, this is what I find so remarkable about you. When I talked to you, and even when I introduced you, I really was not exaggerating when I was giving you that introduction. You had shared this story with me about one of the children who was introducing you to others. Can you share that story, because it's really a fabulous.
Yes. So it was actually one of my surrogate babies, and his parents ended up having another child through another surrogate, and they were having a birthday party for him. And so I went, and they invited me. And so I went, and I got to see, obviously, the child that I had carried. And unbeknownst to me, I mean, I always knew that his parents were very upfront with him about that they had to use and work with somebody else to bring him into the world. And when he was born, I had bought him a couple of gifts that was a unique thing for him and I. And so when I went to go visit, I came in and he grabbed me by the hand. He knew I was Auntie L. That's what he calls me, Auntie L. And he took me by the hand and he brought me to all of his friends. And he was like, "See, I told you guys, this is my Auntie L," and what I had not known that his mom was telling me that day, obviously, since he started going to school, he actually thought it was quite abnormal that people didn't have a mom and a surrogate mom, that he was a very special, unique individual who was completely blessed to be able to have two moms in his life, is what he calls it. And so when I went there and he's introducing me as, "This is my Auntie L, this is the one that I always talk about." And yeah, and I had no idea. And then I didn't have any idea that he wants to show me his room. He showed me his room, and prominently where in his room he has the two gifts that I had bought for him when he was a newborn. And it's still sitting on his dresser, and it's right there. And he's like, "See, Auntie L, I still have your gifts, and I look at them every single day." And he's showing me his room and everything. So, and it's just like, how can you not think that, that was the most amazing, beautiful thing? This child wouldn't be here had I not been willing to raise my hand and say, "Hey, I'm willing to do that for somebody else."
Absolutely. And this child sounds like he is going to be so well accepting and adjusting and
Yes.
adapting to this because of how he's being raised, and because
Yep.
he's feeling like everybody had it, and this is a normal,
It's
quote
normal.
unquote,
That's right.
comfortable in my own skin kind of way of being born and conceived. And
Yep.
yeah, I don't love the word normalized, but it just was kind of capturing when we were trying to figure out how to title this initiative. But really, it's all about being comfortable in your own skin. And it's about the people around you understanding it. And it's about whether or not they're 100% comfortable, because nobody's ever 100% comfortable with
Yep.
everything everybody does. They know it's there and they accept it. And so getting this word out is so important. And I know we don't have too much more time, but I don't really want to stop the conversation until we talk about it a little bit. So how did you go to start an agency from all of this? Because you are truly selfless. I mean, to do this many rounds of being a donor, and then to carry, as a surrogate, and now all of a sudden you start an agency. It's really unbelievable.
Well, I started the agency because when I decided that I wanted to become a surrogate, I actually looked for local agencies first, and there really wasn't any. And then I reached out to, other agencies in different states, and no one was really getting back to me. And it was like pulling teeth. And so
Really?
I decided that I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go and find my own intended parents. I already knew what I personally was looking for. And so I just went and found my intended parents. Well, they then really just encouraged me to start an agency. There was none in the state. And they were like,
Which
we
state are
really
you
think
in?
that I'm in Georgia. So,
Georgia.
and there was none in the state. And so they were like, why not start an agency? You have the experience, you have a business background, and you should go ahead and do it. We think that you would be great at it. So, then I decided like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start this agency. Well, then when I decided to start the agency, the state of Georgia was trying to pass a personhood bill at the time. And then it was like, oh, wait, no, let's hold off on that. Let's not do anything just yet, just because we don't know what's going to happen. Luckily, it didn't get anywhere. So I was then told, like, okay, you can proceed, and then started the agency in 2008.
Wow. It's really such a lovely, beautiful story and such a journey
Oh,
to
yes.
that, you know,
But
and
life is a journey, though.
it is a journey.
For every person, life is a journey. And kind of going back to a point you had just made on, we all have our feelings. We all have things that people will accept and they won't accept, and what someone is going to think is okay for themselves may not be okay for you. But you have to be okay within yourself that whatever happens on the outside or whatever somebody says on the outside, you have enough of a strong footing within yourself that even though it might sway you, you still can't be moved from your convictions.
And I
And
think that's hard at times when we're going through struggles, when we're going through personal struggles, that could be difficult.
oh, of
And
course,
because we're challenging ourselves.
yes,
So when we go through times, with fertility especially, and we're challenging ourselves, then we do feel a little unsteady on our own feet. And so we do need support at that time. And we have to look inward. We have to figure out where to go and who to talk to be able to give that to us.
of course. Well,
And
and that's the thing. You can't,
and
I'm
that's the thing
saying,
you were
having to
talking
have a strong footing, but I'm not saying I'm solo doing it by myself, for sure. You definitely have to have support, and you have to have people in your circle that you know that you can depend on, so that once outside has issues, but you have your inner circle that is pretty much has got your back, regardless of however or whatever happens.
Yeah, and that circle. Like I was talking to Barb Calora. For those who don't know it, Barb is the president and the CEO of Resolve, and she was on the webinar that we did, the first webinar we did for normalizing third party reproduction. And she said you start with your circle.
Yeah.
You start by influencing your circle, and you
Yep.
start by reaching out to those people. And I would like to help anybody who wants to start that, who wants to start to reach out to their circle and let them know about third party reproduction, let them know about adoption, let them hear it, and let them
Mm-hmm.
see these beautiful families that exist now today,
Mm-hmm.
because it's another way to be conceived.
Yep.
And, I thank you. I really do, for all that you have done, and, all the strength that you help all of these families have, and these children, to feel comfortable in their own skin and comfortable in telling their stories.
Yes. Well, I hope that just sharing more and being more open about it and being more accepting about it, um, I think it just trickles down. The more people are willing to be open, willing to be accepting, willing to know that we are all different human beings. We're all going to see things differently. We all have different perspective. We all have different goals in life, but at the end of the day, it's still in our DNA makeup to want certain things, to want to be able to potentially have a child or
Right.
maybe be completely childless, to, be in a marriage or not to be in a marriage, whatever it is, whatever your decision, that's the thing. It's your decision.
And it's drowning out that other noise,
Yes,
and that's what it is when it's not what you want and you've looked at it. You've taken it out of yourself kind of and just looked at the situation, and in your heart, or this is the path you need to take. Then
yep,
how do you drown out the other noise? And
yep,
it's really through reevaluating those relationships, educating those people, and letting them understand.
that's right.
Yeah, and it
Yep.
takes time. It takes time. So I thank you. If there's, anything special you think we should do to help push this initiative forward, please let me know. I
I
am
sure will.
so happy that you were interested and, understand it, and we're supportive of it and hope to continue to be. Anybody who wants to sign that petition, please go to my bio, the LinkedIn. We want everybody to feel comfortable in their own skin, and we're going to be coming out with a letter writing campaign. Really, much of what you and I talked about today also is advocating and
That's right.
advocating for yourself. And sometimes we need help advocating and speaking up. And I think you're just a wonderful example of how you do that.
Well, thank you. And it's not just advocating for ourselves, but it's advocating for our children potentially. You don't
Yes.
know if your child is going to have the same story or a similar story as yourself. And so you doing all of this work for them now means that they don't need to do it when they're older and they're our age and having to, potentially deal with the same situation.
Yeah, oh, perfect. Beautifully put, really. Beautifully. And
Yep,
that's why you're bringing them into the world so that they can have a
that's right.
happy life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Eloise, Drane.
Well, thank you, Lori. It was a pleasure, and I appreciate you allowing me to take some time on your platform.
Oh, please, anytime, please come back. I am probably going to be talking to you again and again.
Absolutely,
Yeah, thank
definitely.
you.
Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Be well. And I'm going to do my best to save this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank
Bye.
you, everybody who joined. We really appreciate it. Bye bye.